Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes.
All right, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today and being a part of the State of the Young People Town Hall. My name is Rodney Wells, and I had the extreme honor being part of such an amazing group of high school students like myself who committed 2 days out of the week and several hours outside of our meetings to putting this event together. And so I want to thank you for joining us and being a part of such a significant of dialogue and conversation and learning from personal experiences. So with that being said, before we get started, I also want to recognize the Center for Children's Rights, who brought all of us together for this event today. And so I want to take this time to recognize some of the amazing people on the call with us from that amazing organization, and for the work they've done. And so really quickly, Ms. Betsy, if you don't mind, if you can say hi to everyone, I would really appreciate it.
Oh gosh. Hi, everyone. We really, we really just want to thank and acknowledge all of the youth change agents who have been planning and preparing for this event. And thank all of you young people who are joining, because we are just so moved and excited by the people that you are and the changes that you all are making every day and that you will continue to make for our community. And so we just thank you for allowing us to hold space and be with you and a part of this process.
Thank you again, Ms. Betsy. And so I've got to say, you are in for a treat. We have an array of discussion pieces ranging from social justice to mental health to what unity looks like in our generation. So with that being said, I now turn over the mic to our mental health committee.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. So
Hi.
today we're going to speak on mental health, the stigma, a couple mental disorders, and how to cope. So I have a few questions I want you guys to keep in mind. 1, what is mental health to you? 2, is mental health important and talked about enough among your family and friends? Excuse me. What is coping to you and how do you cope? Stigma. So basically stigma is how you see, mental health. It typically has a negative connotation to it. So you may be supporting stigma without even understanding what you're doing, really, you know what I'm saying? So for instance, like if you find out that somebody has something that's not really, I don't know, somebody that's different from you, you might just like stay away from them because you don't really understand what they're going through. That's one way of, what I'm saying. That's one way of, I don't know, just supporting stigma. So what we're trying to do is trying to get you guys to debunk that. So versus, isolating people and singling them out, try to, include people more, be more inclusive.
So we also wanted to go over the mental disorders, we wanted to go over what we thought were the main 3. So we wanted to go over depression. It's a mood disorder that causes severe feelings of despondency and dejection. Common symptoms of depression would be empty moods, hopelessness, irritability, and loss of interest in hobbies. But note that not everybody shows symptoms of depression. So, there's not always signs. So you can't always tell what's going on with someone. We also have bipolar disorder, a mental condition marked by the alternating periods of elation and depression. They're also known as hypomania and mania. And anxiety, a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about imminent events or something with an uncertain outcome. And these all kind of go together because like depression and bipolar disorder, they're something that can occur seasonally. So you might be sad not sad, but you might feel it during months of isolation, like in the winter or in the fall, but you're just not always feeling it. And depression is probably one of the most common disorders that we have. and we have the Euphoria video to further explain it.
The other thing about depression is it kind of collapses time.
Bro, you listening?
Suddenly, you find your whole days blending together to create one endless and suffocating loop. So you find yourself trying to remember the things that made you happy. Can we get closer? But slowly, your brain begins to erase every memory that ever brought you joy. And eventually, all you can think about is how life has always been this way. And will only continue to be this way.
So transitioning from that, a lot of the issues that are portrayed in the TV show Euphoria, one of them specifically is coping. One of the unhealthy coping habits that the main character, Rue, portrays is substance abuse. Coping strategies are actions that we take to consciously deal with stress, problems, or uncomfortable emotions. Unhealthy coping strategies include neglecting schoolwork, avoiding friends, substance abuse, denial, sleeping too much or too little, and social media. I know that for us, sometimes it can seem like social media is an escape. You can get out, but there are also harmful effects of absorbing too much information from the outside world. Another unhealthy coping strategy includes self-harm. Some healthy coping strategies include yoga, art, exercise, cooking, and self-care. Going further into self-care, it's the individual practice of health management without the aid of medical professionals. Self-care is really important because we don't always have a friend or a family member or social group to turn to, and sometimes all we have is ourselves. We have to know how to take care of ourselves when no one is around. In today's age, we see a lot of videos about self-care vlogs where they go on extensive trips and do skincare routines, but I think at the center base of self-care is breathing and making sure that you're grounded, because breathing is what connects all your body, your brain, your heart, your feet. It connects us all together. So if one part of it is off, the whole system breaks down. So as an exercise for this, I'd like to do a breathing exercise called 3-7-10. So you're gonna breathe in for 3 seconds, you're gonna hold it for 7 seconds, and then you're gonna let it go for 10. So make sure that your feet are rested on the floor and you're in a comfortable position. And I want you to go ahead and do it with me. So breathe in for 3. Hold it for 7. And then let it go for 10. And on that last 10, you want to make a stream of air that's really focused on any problems that you have, any changes that you've been having in your life. So if you've been being extra happy or extra sad, or a huge influx in your emotions or changes in your life. So let's try it one more time, focusing on those things. So breathe in for 3. Hold it for 7. And let it go for 10. Great job, you guys. So we want to make sure that our mind and body is connected and relaxed. And we can do this through mindfulness, which is the basic human ability to be fully present and aware in a space. So I want to turn to another activity because I know that the breathing exercise was really in your brain. Not all of us can feel things in our brains, and really it becomes too much up there. You're already in school all day and you want something visual that you can just flash out on a piece of paper. So this next exercise, I'd like you to grab a piece of paper. It can be lined, it can be colored or anything, a pencil, and any other art materials. You don't necessarily have to have them, but they'd be great for this exercise. So I have colored pencils, a pencil, and paper. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to get those. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're ready, thumbs down if you're not. Thumbs up, okay. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. So the first thing that you wanna do is write down 2 to 3 words that you are feeling in this space right now. So this can be throughout your day, what you felt like in the morning, what you felt like in the night, but specifically what you're feeling right now. So for me, I'm gonna write down, I'm optimistic. I'm a little stressed. I have an algebra EOC tomorrow, so I've been preparing for that. And I'm delighted to see your beautiful faces. So you guys can go ahead and write down your 2 to 3 words.
Sorry about that.
Was there a question? I didn't hear.
You said get what else? You said get paper?
Pencil, paper, and any other art materials. It can be paint, it can be colored pencils. You don't really have to have art materials at all if you don't. Okay, so the next step is I want you to think of something that you're obsessed with right now. So anything that has just been on your mind and you've been thinking about it so much. So for me, I think this would have to be, one of the things is TikTok. When I first wake up in the morning, I'm on TikTok. Or if I go to sleep, I'm on TikTok. And it's kind of an obsession. So I'm gonna draw the TikTok symbol. I've been really obsessed with Prince's music. He's one of my favorite artists. So I'm gonna draw one of his album covers. Lyrics to songs that you really like and things like that. Just put it out on the paper in any way that you want to.
Hi, everybody. So, what I drew was,
You said we could write down any kind of way we want to.
yes, whatever you want.
All right.
So, what I drew was, I drew a heart because love has been on my mind lately. Also, drew a music symbol because I love music and it helps me get through my day. Also, drew a cross because I love the Lord and that's how I get by.
Yeah.
No problem. You can go ahead and speak, by the way. I see the hand raised.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Okay, so after after you've drawn how you feel, you're now gonna take your paper and you're gonna fold it into any way that you want, that you feel like expresses how you feel about what you wrote on the paper. If you're mad about some of the things, you can crumple it up. If you want to put these things like to give you more insight, you can turn them into a telescope. You can turn it into a heart. Whatever you think best represents how you feel. Okay, so I turned mine into a hat because these are things that I want that are heavily on my head right now. And some of them I want to be able to take off and leave. And some of them I want to put on and style them up. So yeah.
I drew airplane, kind of to bounce off what you said, take off. So these things can take off in my life. So yeah.
Does anyone else want to share what they folded and why?
I want to share.
Go ahead.
I want to share because I put a heart in. Love is what I like.
I love that. Everything's love.
I also folded a heart because I feel like my personality, I have a very big heart as a person, and I give everyone lots of love because I would like that same in return. And also like the actual love, like romantic love, I love that also.
I love that. Does anyone else want to share?
So I went with a plane because the things on my mind, I just want them, well, not really to pull them away, but they're just rolling through, you know?
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, so now that we folded it, we're gonna unfold it. And we're just gonna take a step back and look at what we put on our paper. So we're gonna pick one thing that we put on our paper and we're gonna ask ourselves why. And then once you have given yourself that reason of why, I want you to try to go deeper and continue asking yourself why. So I put on here some sunglasses with like fame in the middle. And I think because I have like, I overconsume like famous people and I like looking at what they're doing all the time. And I also want to be famous, and why I can go deeper and ask myself, why do I want to be famous? And I want to make an impact on people and the way that they view the world. And I want them to make them think that the world is better than it can be, or better than the way it is right now. So yeah, I'd like you guys to go ahead and ask yourselves why you wrote or drew some of the things that you did today.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tylen.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I put a heart because I think Kendall was saying this earlier. I want to be able to give love. I want to be able to impact people. Also, want to know what it feels like in return. So therefore, you can know what you're doing and do it the right way.
Does anyone else want to share?
I also put a hat because all the stuff in my head, and I just could throw it away.
I like that. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope that you take this practice into like your weekly lives or your monthly lives. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. Here are a few resources that have help for mental health. And thank you guys so much for listening. I'll now be transitioning it over to the social justice group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Micah, and everyone else for that awesome presentation. Very fitting since it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So great presentation. Loved it. Chef's kiss. Before we move on to the social justice segment of today's event, I would like to first announce the first winners of our raffle today. So there will be 4 more other raffles throughout this event tonight, but I will be announcing the first 2 now. So the first winner is Hunter Cameron.
Congratulations.
If you don't mind, like,
Congratulations.
you're here, just like say a little something. Hunter Cameron, are you there? Yes, no, maybe no. Okay. I'm gonna reach out to you via private message, and if you're not here, I'll have to give it to someone else. But for anyone who wins a raffle ticket tonight, make sure that in the final survey that will be released tonight near the ending of tonight's event, please to make sure that you include your email so that we can send you your prize, and also so that you can receive ours. And our second winner of tonight is Nevaeh. Nevaeh, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much for attending. No problem. Just remember to please put your email in the closing survey, because that's how we will send you your gift. Okay. So now we will be moving on to social justice. Let me share my screen.
My bad. I'm here. I was busy.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you for showing your face and saying hello. Cool hair. Love the hair. Yeah, so you'll receive that very soon. And be sure to put your email in the ending survey. Okay, wait, I'm not sharing my screen yet. Oops. Sharing now. Okay. So today, for the social justice segment of tonight's event, we will be discussing intersectionality, microaggressions, and activism. And during this segment, we will be having a bit of discussion. So now we're going to go into our ground rules. And I'm just going to quickly go through them. You can read the fine details as I kind of summarize them. So be real just means to be authentic. Don't be afraid to share and to speak your truth as long as it's polite. Don't yuck my yum, which means someone who may have different experiences than you may disagree with them, but be sure to do it respectfully. Move up and move back. This is a safe space for all who are here. And if you have something that you would like to share, don't be afraid to share it. But when space is given for a certain group of people, please respect that space and that time that they are going to be sharing their experiences, and don't try to speak over them or interject. Listen fully before you respond. Of course, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, meaning we should listen more than we should speak most of the time. So be sure to respond appropriately and respectfully. Ouch, I really like this one because basically you just say ouch, like in the chat or out loud if you feel offended by something someone has said, and it is a teachable moment, so don't be afraid to say ouch. And that can be a really great way to, continue the conversation and address any issues. Embrace discomfort. So basically, when we do have just comforting or have conversations that may be discomforting, embrace it. Don't be afraid to shy away. Don't be afraid to give your commentary. Practice the alternative vagus rule, which means whatever we say in the Zoom call, whatever personal information or like personal anecdotes or anything that you share in this call, will stay in this call because this is a safe space. And lastly, look for aha moments. or Eureka moments, creating new ideas, connections, which is what all of this is about. And lastly, I just wanted to say thank you to Voices Institute, a health equity organization that has helped me to create this verbiage for the ground rules for today. So moving on to what is social justice?
Welcome everyone. Today, the primary topics that we'll be going over today are equity, participation, human rights, and change and progress. Next slide, please.
So intersectionality. So what does it mean and what is it? On the left side of the screen, we have a quote by Audre Lorde, an activist from the civil rights movement, and she once said, "There's no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives." I included this quote because I feel like it perfectly encapsulates what intersectionality is supposed to mean. And Audre Lorde herself is a well-renowned activist, intersectional activist, specifically, who fought for not only the rights of Black people, but also the rights of gay rights, and also in the women's liberation movement. Passing it off to Courtney, my co-presenter.
Right. So intersectionality, it's not really a word or phrase that you hear all the time. You may not even know what it means. So intersectionality is the acknowledgement that everyone has their own unique experiences of discrimination that are tied to their identities. People can be discriminated against on the basis of gender, identity, race, ethnicity, nationality, socioeconomic background, sexuality, mental and physical ability, religion, and many other things.
So we have arrived at the discussion portion of today's segment. So feel free to respond in the chat or just speak out loud. I should be able to see when you raise your hand, so please just feel free to speak up. So our first question is, to what extent is intersectional activism necessary for the progress of human rights? Oops, sorry.
Go ahead, Savannah. I see your hand.
Yeah, intersectionality is necessary for the progress of human rights because like the quote said, no one lives by themselves. So every issue will affect another issue. So if you only care about one issue, you really care about several different issues. For example, the environment is a great example because if you only care about, race issues, there are environmental impacts that global warming has on race, where people in lower income neighborhoods are more likely to be affected by issues caused by race. So therefore, you have to be intersectional when you are performing activism.
Good answer. I really like that. Yeah, definitely agree. Hardcore agree. Could you just make sure that if people have their hands raised, that you can call on them, because apparently I cannot see. So does anyone else have?
Deanna, did I see you raise your hand?
Yeah, I wanted to just add on to what Savannah was saying. I believe that intersectionality, it's extremely important, and she already elaborated why. However, when talking about different issues, it's really important to stay on track and to stay focused. When we're advocating for something specific, it's essential that we advocate for that and we see that through, and then we follow up with the next task. So sometimes it's not just this or that, it's a collective of things, and we have multiple priorities, but we want to make sure that we tackle, as we tackle tasks, we complete them and we thoroughly go through them before we take on another task.
Hardcore agree to that too. Well said, well said. Does anyone else have anything to say for the first question? No? Okay, so moving on to the second question. Do you believe there are instances when intersectional activism is not appropriate?
Go ahead, Chalon.
I believe there is an inappropriate time. How, like, if you're talking about one form of intersectionality, I feel like you may not should bring the other one, like another one up, because it might take the focus off that topic. That makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, especially when like a certain group of people needs like that space or that platform to speak, and by bringing up issues, it could definitely like take away from the issues that are most obvious or the task that's at hand. So yeah, totally get what you're saying.
Thank you. Yes.
Mushi.
Hi. I think I agree with the last person. There definitely is times where intersectional things don't necessarily play a role. Like if you're focusing on one person's rights, you can't bring everybody into it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else? Also, do we have any responses in the chat? If someone doesn't mind reading those out, if there are any responses, because I can't really see it, sorry.
No, there's no responses.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for the second question? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the last question. How can practicing intersectionality lead you to being a better activist and or ally?
Kylie, you can go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. For one, I feel like I can give you diversity, because you will learn other people's opinions and how they really feel about it. So therefore you won't have your opinion, you will actually have those who live those lives opinion as well.
Yeah, I think that's like definitely like a big part of like intersectionality. You have to kind of understand and learn the experiences of others in order to really like be sympathetic and wanting to improve everyone's issues that are happening or what's going on.
I hope I explained that correctly.
No, yeah, I think we all got what you were saying.
Go ahead, Rodney.
Yeah, I think it's so important because, and like Trinity said, it promotes that greater level of understanding, not just about being an activist or ally, but just being a responsible citizen. When we vote, I think having that understanding of how issues relate to each other, it enables us the ability to ask better questions to people who want our vote. And more importantly, when we have to hold them accountable, you can't say you're for this issue or this issue, but you voted no or yes to an issue that ties into that. So understanding how issues tie into each other, I think is so important to our understanding of how our political system is working around us or working for us.
Yeah, I think that definitely goes back to the quote of not being single issues, because we don't live single issue lives, and voting for one thing and not the other, or vice versa. it's just like you have to be like it's like laws and policies that are being passed still affect people and still could affect your neighbor or your friend or whatever. So yeah, that's really important. Anyone else have anything to say? Okay. Well, thank you all for those who participated. You all had some really great opinions, and I really liked your responses. Moving on to the next segment of social justice, which is microaggressions.
Okay, so before we get into the details of microaggressions, I'd like to ask everybody, what do you think a microaggression is?
You can go ahead, Tyler.
I would say something like microaggression is probably like a, how can I say, like a smaller form of racism, phobia, stuff like that. Like a small aggression may not be as big, but it still happens in a day-to-day life.
Okay, and Mushi?
I think it's like people being racist without realizing it because it's such a small thing that it's like super subtle, but when you're the person being affected by it, you can realize it. Like a stereotype that's not super out there, kind of like that.
Kendall?
I think that microaggressions are small and kind of sly remarks or actions that indirectly perpetuate or point out a stereotype or a specific belief that people hold towards a certain group.
Those are all great answers. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, so those were all great answers, but microaggression is defined as everyday subtle, unintentional, and sometimes unintentional interactions with or behaviors that communicate some type of bias towards historically marginalized groups. So I can, from my experience, I've had microaggressions come like I'm well spoken, like I'm more well spoken than what you would have thought, or you speak white or whatever. Like that's the microaggression. Or I've had some where like some microaggressions are when you're getting followed around like in the mall or whatever, or stuff like that, because they just assume.
Another personal example of a microaggression is when I was in 6th grade, I think, there was this girl who came up to me and started touching my hair. And she told me, she was like, wow, it's way softer than it looks. And now that you have the basis of, oh, go ahead, Tyler.
Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
Okay. Now that you guys have the basis of what a microaggression is, can you think of a time where you were a victim of a microaggression? And by the way, Zaria and I only used race-based examples of microaggressions, but it can be anyone. If you're part of a marginalized community, you can have experienced a microaggression.
A microaggression that I have personally faced is like people assuming that you want to be something that you're not based on the way you may act or dress. People may assume that you want to be something that you're not, and I would say that's a microaggression that a lot of people deal with on a day-to-day.
Nevaeh?
Just to go off what like Zaria said about like someone saying that you speak white when really it's just like speaking properly, you know? Like it's not like the way that you would like we don't fit into the stereotype of what people think people of color typically speak or sound like. So, and it's just like it's kind of offensive because I'm not fully Black, but I find it offensive to like for someone to say like I speak white for a Black person, because it's like, okay, you know, don't throw all Black people into the category of just being like ghetto or not able to speak correctly. It's offensive.
Absolutely. That's great.
Mushi?
So recently I was a part of this program called ProStart where I had to design a restaurant, and a microaggression that I personally experienced because our restaurant was based on Ethiopian cuisine and cultures and stuff. We wanted to wrap our hair up like Ethiopian people would, but the thing is that Ethiopian people don't wrap up their hair as much. In fact, their hair is more free or out there. And we didn't necessarily I guess like research the culture all too much when we did it. We were really focusing on the cuisine and the colors and what felt like it. So when it came around the time to wrap my hair, I was against it. And I was like, yo, it doesn't feel right because culturally it's not right. And to generalize an entire continent felt really wrong. I ended up not wearing it, and only one person ended up wearing it, which was another person.
I just would like to say that's a great answer, and that's good that you realized what you were doing. So that's a really good answer.
Thank you.
Those were all valid answers, but some other ones that like aren't really like race related is like if you see a queer person and they don't act the way you like that you assume they'll act. So, or if they do act the way you assume they act, and then you're saying, oh, they're doing too much, things like that. But a question that I have is what microaggressions have you experienced and how did you handle it? I mean, some of y'all said how y'all handled it, but yeah.
Go ahead, Tyler.
I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. How I handled it was you have to love yourself. Most importantly, you have to know your worth, the best you can say. What else? How I also handled it was you don't let it affect you in a negative or positive way. You just kind of act like it didn't. Not to say it didn't happen, but you just don't want to give it any attention because then you will make what they said or did come true, if that makes sense. And also, any attendees that want to go ahead and talk, y'all.
Nevaeh?
I agree with Tylen on the self-love part. Like you just have to like try to block that stuff out. And to the people that are like, dang, I don't know how to say it. The people that are like being microaggressive, it's like you just have to like educate them and let them know, like, you know, what you're saying isn't exactly wrong, but just try to look at things from this point of view, like, you know, so you don't like offend people in the future.
And guys, there's some really great comments in the comment section. So if you could just turn to there, you can see some of those great comments also.
Yeah, I was definitely about to address them. So Mushi brings up the gay best friend stereotype, and then Shawnee was talking about how people put Africans in the category of being poor, and not all Africans are poor, not all Africans are rich, not all Americans are rich. It's really it's a point of view type of thing, but that's one of the richest continents in the world. So, and then Miss Ann says, you look too straight to be gay, or you sound too smart for a Black person. Heard those before. Those are all valid. And then Hunter says, I used to have people tell me that I act too straight to be bisexual, and it never made any sense. So I would ask their point of view and then explain how it doesn't work like that. That's a great way how you how you handled it. That's a yeah. And then Ms. Ann says again that you're too smart for a girl. Sexist remarks. It doesn't all go towards your sexuality or your race. It's also like disability and all the type of everything that's included in intersectionality. You can basically have a microaggression for. We have another question.
Yes, we have one last question. So now that we have all these examples and experiences of microaggressions, can anybody think of a time where they were microaggressive, I guess, towards someone?
So I have one. I used to be kind of ableist, back before because I was really ignorant, didn't really know. But now you know better. So I used to be a perpetrator. So like there's times when I would I don't know. I used to find the things funny when I used to find like the things. Oh, my bad. Valis, I'm sorry. I apologize. You can say your experience.
Oh, it's me and Asiana. Okay, what is it? I'm microaggressive all the time. And I need help. If you know what I mean.
No, they don't. That's glad. I'm happy you acknowledge that.
You're saying that you like the perpetrator of microaggressions and like you don't realize what you're doing?
I know what I'm doing. I think I can't control it. I can't control it.
Well, for a start, that's great that you acknowledge that. So that's for a good start.
Thank you.
Like Tylen said, it's good that you can acknowledge what you're doing towards people, so that way you can work on being better.
Okay.
Also, to help you, a way that you can stop, I guess you can say, is just you don't have to put yourself on somebody's side or not on their side. Just understanding that they're a human and they're a person just like you. So that's so.
I say I'm too honest with it, but I'm mean with it. I can't help that I'm mean with it, but I'm just honest. I'm blunt with it. Like.
Well, I'm so glad that you acknowledge that. Just I don't know. That's really. I'm happy that you acknowledge that. Any of that y'all want to give her?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are you saying like when you say you are blunt with it and you're not really sure how not to be because I know some people can perceive you to be coming off mean. Are you like when you say you don't know how to not be mean with it, are you saying almost like you don't know how else to say it? Or like in a nicer way?
I don't be trying to be mean.
I'm sorry?
I don't be trying to be mean, but
well, I think microaggressions are a very specific category of mean. So like as long as you or blunt, I guess. So you can be blunt without being microaggressive. Like
Yeah.
just don't perpetrate. I'm so sorry.
Somebody in the chat says microaggressions does not equal mean. So that could also be a thing. So if you're trying not to be mean and you just say something that's rude, it doesn't equate to being mean. Like it might not be a microaggression. You just might be being a little too blunt. It could be that.
Exactly. As long as you're not perpetrating negative stereotypes about their marginalized, whatever marginalized community they're a part of, then you're not being microaggressive. But if you are, then that's something you have to work on.
I would also like to add this, and this is what I'm gonna say. Somebody in the chat had said, if you just put yourself in their shoes. So it's like you just, how would I feel if I said that to if they was to say that to me, how would I feel? Pretty much. So I think that's a go-to and easy to think when you have something to say or your opinion. Because your opinion is valid as well.
Yeah, and Matthew says he's been a perpetrator. He said he's asked, do you have the dumb autism or the smart kind? That's real ableist. But I mean, I'm glad you recognized it. We're here to take accountability. So that's great. And then, yeah. Oh, and then Matthew also says that,
no, Matthew was saying that he was the one who experienced that microaggression.
Oh, my bad. Wrong time. They said it could be just you, your tone, and your message could be valid as well. So it's not the context, it's the delivery. So yeah. Does anybody else have any examples of when they have been perpetrators? We got other experiences of when you have been. I mean, when we've been microaggressed. We got Miss Ann saying somebody told her that she doesn't look autistic.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing all of your experiences. I really appreciate it.
Now on to the activism group. So next slide.
Yes. Oh, I just wanted to like apologize really quick. Sorry for like my screen just like disappearing. My computer was being glitchy and then I was booted out the call. So I just wanted to say sorry about that. So sorry if I like missed anything. And also for those of us who are drawing on the screen, could we please remove that and stop doing that because it's really distracting. Yes. And it's honestly against our guidelines that we discussed earlier. It's distracting, it's not respecting those who are trying to share, and it's not respecting those who are trying to present this wonderful information to us. So it would be greatly appreciated if you refrain from doing that.
All right, I'm just gonna have to boot you.
Yeah. And moving on to activism. LPSA. Okay. There we go.
Good. All right. Activism. So before I get started, I just want to ask everybody, what is your definition of activism? Like, give us some examples, some experiences that you have experienced, like the past couple months with activism. Anybody, please.
I think it's just expressing what you believe.
Okay. I see in the chat, Shani said raising awareness about issues. That's correct. Standing up for yourself or those who can't. And that is correct too. Oh, hands. Nevaeh, I think.
I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Nevaeh is.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Miss Holmes. Miss Holmes.
Well, my brother just died for police brutality, and we've been dealing with a lot of activists.
Okay.
Dejana, she haven't said nothing.
Sorry for
But
your loss, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Go ahead, Nevaeh.
Oh, Nevaeh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. It's basically just like, yeah, standing up for what you believe in and like being passionate about a certain cause. Like, and an example of that, a personal one, is like around the time George Floyd got killed and everyone was like protesting and stuff. Like I would go to protests, like a few of them.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's a great example.
In the chat, Mushi says, standing up for yourself or those who can't. And Melissa says, standing up for you believe in. And Miss Ann says, activism is when you speak out about the issues and try to fight for equality and a better world. And Mrs. Rufin says, acting to make change.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, those are some excellent experiences and definitions and examples of activism. But now I'm going to give y'all some good stuff to put in your brain. Next slide, please. All right, what is activism? This is the definition of activism. Activism is the policy of taking direct action to achieve an end, especially a political or social one. So when I think of activism, I think of action. I think of taking action for something. The biggest thing when it comes to activism that a lot of people participate in is protests. There has been a lot of protests, a lot of issues that are still going on today, and protest is a wonderful way of fighting against it and raising awareness. So yeah, Alfred.
All right, so a question today is, what do you usually associate with activism? Anyone?
So what do you associate? So like when you think of activism, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Protest comes to my mind.
Protest.
Okay. Ms. Rufin says marching peacefully. Yes, that's one. Protesting from educating your peers. Yes, that's a good one also.
From Adriana. Yeah. Speaking publicly from Savannah. Yes, ma'am. Man, you got to be brave too.
Courtney, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Courtney, I'm sorry.
Yeah, another example that comes to mind is like Martin
Luther King. Okay.
Melissa said fighting to make a world a better place.
Instagram posts do not do much. They do something.
But they do something, yeah. Because I'm sorry, but if you don't stop marking up on the screen, we'll have to boot you out.
All right. Next question.
All right, what steps are you taking to become an activist?
For me, that's staying like educated on different groups, and when I see that there's like a crisis happening somewhere, reading up about it and finding information so I can spread it to other people.
Treasure said petitions. That's wonderful.
Savannah says joining political nonprofits that support an issue I care about. Yes, that's actually a great one. And if I'm not correct, Deanna said, I'm sorry, I can't find the comment.
It said bringing awareness. I see it.
Yes.
Savannah said joining political nonprofits that support an issue I care about. That's definitely a good one. Making sure people spread information. Information is actually a huge one. When you inform yourself about a certain issue, even if it has nothing to do with you, like that's the best thing you really can do, because it creates
awareness.
Yeah, and it creates more sympathy and awareness, and it kind of motivates you to, you know what I'm saying, jump in and try to make change. So yeah, inform yourself. It's the biggest thing.
Yes, and for our next question, in what ways can someone become an activist, in your opinion? Or yes.
It's two questions: what ways, and then what exemplar characteristics does an activist have? Okay. Sean, you want to read off?
Yes, I got it. I think characteristics an activist may or should have is willing to fight and fight hard for what you're fighting for. Also, it's your duty to understand and even, and even if you haven't been through the issue yourself. Yes, that's actually a great one. And Jaden said, someone is removing me. Oh, wait, no.
It ain't got
yeah. I'm sorry. Deanna said, oh yeah.
You gotta read that, man. All right, yeah. So those are some great answers. Really, to tie it all up, activism. Really, you can do a lot when it comes to activism. Activism is basically just staying active on any issue that you are basically interested in or want to be a part of or want to change or whatever. So, but the biggest one I feel like that y'all should take away today is informing yourself, because I remember during the George Floyd thing, a lot of people slid up on my stories like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And I was like, just inform yourself. Really just inform yourself, educate yourself. And, that's the biggest thing.
It can be as simple as just getting your voice known against something that occurs in your environment, in your community, or in your school, or anything like that. Just making your voice known and, speaking out against something.
Deanna, Ms. Deanna, ways to become. I'm sorry. What happened?
Sorry, you can go ahead and read.
Oh yeah, Deanna said ways to become an activist, getting involved, join local organizations, taking time to research. Characteristics: aware, bold, vocal, and a team player. That is exactly right. Ms. Zaria said you have to make sure it's not performative as well. A lot of people were doing that with George. Yep, a lot of people were. And another one, you will say something. I was gonna say consistency, because we have this thing that we do all the time. Something happened, everybody is protesting, everybody posting. As soon as it die down, you don't have nothing no more. So that's the biggest thing. If you're gonna be an activist, you have to stay consistent. Have to.
Yes, and when you become, I'm sorry, Deanna, go.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to piggyback off that, and another really important characteristic is you just have to listen, especially if you're not a part of that specific marginalized community, because a lot of times you speak up and you speak over. So it's really important to just listen.
Yeah.
Yes, and Zaria said, oh, go ahead.
You got it, man.
All right, Zaria said there are issues every week, basically, but people pick and choose what they want to stand up for. Yes, you can't choose what you want to stand up for, but as Mr. Curtis said, you have to be consecutive. You have to be on that topic. You can't just be on it today and choose something else tomorrow, or just forget about it tomorrow.
Yep. Well, that is it for activism. I hope you guys learned something new.
Next slide, please. All right, this concludes the social justice presentation. Please transition to the next presentation. Thank you. Hope you guys learned something, and I hope you will input something that you learned today in your daily lives.
Thank you all so much for all who participated. Y'all had some really insightful things to say. Before we move on to our next and final group, I would just like to do our next raffle. Let me go ahead and pull that up really quick. And our next raffle goes to Sydney. Your username is Sydney's iPhone. Congrats. Can you let us know that you're here? Sydney, are you there? Yes, no? Okay. LOL. So I will pick another person, just in case Sydney does not come to claim her prize.
Hello. I think her mic is messing up.
Yeah.
So I know she's here. I'm not sure if she can type in the chat.
Yeah, Sydney, if you can't speak, just go ahead and type in the chat.
Come on, Sydney. Come on.
No, Sydney? Okay.
Win $1 million.
Yeah, I will announce at the end of the raffle. Sydney, since you aren't responding, sorry, moving on to the next person. Our next person is Tiana. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Congrats. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Can we join the next one, please, Melissa? It's all random. I've been kind of taking note of who's here and who's not, so it's all random. So everyone who's here is already entered in the raffle. So Tiana, could you let us know that you're here, please? Via chat, or you can just come on the mic. Tiana, are you here?
Wow, none of our winners are here today.
We had 2 from earlier. All righty. Oh wait, Tiana, are you here?
Tiana just joined.
Hello.
I just
I'm here.
admitted her.
I'm here.
Okay, welcome back. You won a prize. You won a raffle prize. Congrats.
Thank you.
Woo. Make sure in the final survey that you put your email in the box and in the field in the survey so that we can get your prize to you. And thank you, Melissa, for giving me those names. They will be entered in the next round. And I will do one more since Sydney has not seemed to show.
Hey, Trinity, prior to doing this next one, can you make sure that we add the 5 that Melissa just sent? The 5
like
names?
Right
yeah.
now? Okay.
So while Trinity is doing that, the Unity Committee will get started. And so I'm so excited to be a part of this, part of the project. And like I said, while Trinity's selecting our next winner, we want to start a quick activity that Kendall will start to pull up now. But one thing 2020 it showed us there's a lot of division. And so one thing that I hear a lot from students, especially us as high school students, is that's not what our generation is. That's not what we want for our generation. That's not what we're going to accept as a narrative for our generation. And so I think more than ever, conversations about what does that look like they're essential to how we move forward. and how we build bridges and not walls. So one thing we want to do is we want all of you all to think about 3 words that you could describe Generation Z as, whether that's resilient, whether that's strong, whether that's chaotic, whatever that word is for you. We want you to insert that word. And so it should be popping up soon.
Hi everyone, I'm Kendall and I'll be leading the word cloud program. So let me just share my screen. So basically at the top, you should be able to see that you have to go to menti.com. And when you arrive there, there will be a code. So if you can, whatever device you're on, go to your browser and type in menti.com. And then the code is 7348105. And basically you'll be prompted to describe Gen Z in 1 word. And you're able to input as many entries as you want. And so basically the whole objective of this activity is to highlight how, as a generation, we are more alike than different. And yes, the past has been very divisive and polarizing, as Rodney has said, but overall, we are still one generation that should be together and take care of our peers. And so currently, we've gotten words like caring, strong, intolerant, performative, compassionate, and inclusive. And these are all positive words. And if you were to include negative words, you can do that also. But really, we have an overwhelming amount of positive words, which highlights how we have a positive regard towards our peers. And hopefully what I want you to take away from this is that we should be empathetic, caring, and kind to our fellow members. And I believe Jaden Williams has his hand up. If you have something to say, you can unmute.
Yeah. You said what words we gotta do?
Just describe Gen Z in 1 word.
Okay.
And a lot of these words are very similar. Like we have caring and understanding, and then we have like activist and resilient and rebellious. These are all words that they're all just synonyms to highlight how Gen Z is caring, compassionate, and we like pioneer a way to like foster change, as the social justice group was talking about. And so I'll leave. Roddy, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said something that struck me, and that was pioneer. And I think one thing that I extremely love about our generation is that we're in a new time. You know, in an age where social media is our superpower. That's how we create movements. That's how we spread messages. And that's something that no other generation before us has been able to do. I think pioneer was the perfect word for this. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes, and building off of that, overall, I want you guys to take away that we are one united generation. And even though it's always like taught to us that you create change when you're older, you are able to create change and foster improvements in your community now, which will be discussed by the ensuing panelists, which Rodney can lead the introduction.
And before we go into that, I didn't want to forget about our winners. And so I want to make sure that Trinity recognizes them before we continue.
Yes, of course. So I am going to announce the 1 winner who's replacing the first one who didn't really show up, and then the last 2 winners, since there are 6 opportunities to win the raffle tonight, will be at the end of tonight's event. So our fourth winner is Pilar. I'm saying that right, Pilar? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I know that was one of the viewers from our live. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for participating. We do have a post survey, so please include your email so that you can receive your raffle. And again, there will be 2 more winners, so all is not lost. You still all have an opportunity to win. Moving on to this panelist.
So I will stop sharing my screen. I'm loving all the words that are coming in, and Rodney will introduce our ensuing speakers.
Absolutely. Thank you again. So we are joined by 2 amazing pioneers in Jacksonville, who I've been so fortunate to call both friends and colleagues in the work that they're doing. And so first, I would like to introduce Savannah Noble, who's a senior at Wilson High School. Savannah was one of the founders of March for Our Lives Jacksonville, where she served as communications director, and is currently advocacy director for the Young Leaders of Today, a youth organization promoting civic engagement. Along with that, Savannah has been quoted in several Florida Time Union articles, including one which called her a leading voice fighting for Black lives in Jacksonville. Next is Deanna Burton, who is not only president and founder of her own initiative called SPEAR, which means showing political engagement and responsibility, which is powerful message on its own, but is also senior class president of Robert E. Lee, where she has been a vocal and powerful voice in the name change of her school. Along with that, both of these young ladies were named was named in the 18 or 18 list for Folio Weekly, and have been quoted in Vogue. So these are some amazing leaders in our city. And so Savannah and Deanna, I want to ask you a couple of questions. The first thing is, we just did that word cloud. And so what were some of the words that kind of stuck out to you from that, and what do those words mean?
Definitely passionate is definitely very Gen Z. We go all out for issues we care about, sometimes to a fault. And then there were a lot like caring, loving, that kind of thing. And I definitely agree that we are more progressive, and we are more, we're making sure that people feel safe, and making sure that changes are made to make sure that everyone has a place where they can feel safe and welcome.
Deanna, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Savannah in the sense that passionate, caring, and loving, but most importantly, understanding. I feel like our generation is more aware and takes the time to understand each other, and, advocates for diversity and not division.
Absolutely. So one thing before we continue, I would love for you all to share your stories of what youth activism, how that has shaped. One thing we all talk about is, and one thing people tell us is wait your time. You're too young to get involved. You're too young to start early. And so as students who have done this for years, talk about that process for you.
I'll go first, I guess. So I had always cared about politics, but I had never done something about them. And then my freshman year, Parkland happening, the Parkland shooting. And I just remember feeling hopeless the entire day. I was constantly on my phone looking at updates, and I didn't know what to do. I felt scared. I felt anxious. And, the previous year I had been in a code red. So I knew like what it felt like to feel like you're going to die at school. And one of my really close friends, Zach Kindy, approached me about joining March for Our Lives because he had a really close connection to the kids at Parkland and was actually on his way to Parkland School when the shooting happened. And then I joined in and I got addicted, I like to say. I got educated on gun rights issues, and then I realized that there were other issues I really cared about. I did a lot of research. I really found my footing in communications. I found that I have something to say, and I don't mind expressing it wherever needed or wherever possible. And March for Our Lives really shaped me into the leader activist I am today. And then I watched this video that the comedian Hassan Minaj said. Something he said on TV show really struck with me. It says, he basically said, you don't have to care about every issue. You know, there was a period of time where I was just overwhelmed. Like, I was looking at everything at the news and it's like, I have to put my energy into this. And he had great advice that said, pick 3 issues that you are able to act on and make sure to pay attention to those other issues, but you don't have to put 100% of your energy into everything. So that really helped me, you know, feel less overwhelmed. And I got in touch with people who could help me feel less overwhelmed and help me do something about what, like, the emotions I was feeling about issues. Yeah.
Thank you. Deanna?
All right. So for me, I had always been involved from Girl Scouts to 4-H. Being involved was kind of normal for me. However, I can relate to Savannah in the sense of feeling overwhelmed because there's always some kind of event or current event or movement that needs help or that needs support and that needs resources. So you kind of start to feel like, how do I tackle all of this? So out of that came SPEAR and training youth and getting more youth involved and supporting any idea that they presented and giving them the task of being over it. Along with SPEAR, it was being, eventually as I got older, I started having officer positions in the clubs that I was in. So naturally, being part of 4-H environment became one of my focuses. Being a part of Girl Scouts, female rights became one of my priorities as well. And being a part of being the senior class president of Lehigh, amplifying minority and Black voices became a priority as well. So my agenda and priorities and kind of just shifted and just flowed with my, I call it my work schedule at the time or my resume. But lately I've realized that for me, it's amplifying the voices of youth and realizing that I'm a senior, Ronnie, you're a senior, Savannah, you're a senior, we're all finna leave. And we have to extend that hand back and give it to youth. And I see some SPEAR members on the call, and I call these young leaders while they're leaders of today, I call them my sons, because they'll be in our shoes next, and they're going to carry on the torch, and they're going to train students, and they're going to take on SPEAR or the world even. And I think that's what drives me now. And I still have my focuses, but it just does so much more when you have a whole team around you, and that way you can actually tackle multiple tasks. So yeah.
Rodney, you're muted.
I apologize. Before we continue, I want to let everyone know that feel free to join this conversation. Put your questions, but one thing I want to ask you too is, how do you get involved? And how do you stay involved? How do you, you both have been a part of some major movements, Savannah, March for Our Lives, beyond the name change. But as we all know, when we get that victory, there is more work to be done. How do you keep the momentum?
You definitely, as an activist, you definitely need to keep evolving. So like Deanna said, her issues that she cared about changed as she grew more. I definitely agree with that. My mother works in non-for-profits, so my focus has been in nonprofit organizations. So like this year, my summer, I plan on focusing on helping people. So I created a list of nonprofit organizations in Jacksonville. and I'm reaching out to them one by one. And that's the best way, is to reach out. Don't wait for someone to contact you. If you just put your foot out there, people will jump at the opportunity for help, especially now COVID has made it hard for places to find volunteers. So if you want to help, just look up, if you care about LGBT issues, look up organizations in the area. Jasmine, great organization. There are plenty of places to volunteer. You just need to offer your help. Put yourself out there as much as possible.
Alrighty. Was the original question how to get involved or how to stay motivated?
I think both.
Okay. So
find out where to get involved, but like I said, when something stops or an organization moves on to the next thing, how do we keep that same passion?
So to answer that part, there are two philosophies, if you will, that I hold on to, and it's movement, not moment. And then the second one is where there's struggle, there's progress. Like you said, we're going to have those victories, and we're going to have those days where we feel like we finally got somewhere, and then we're going to see something else in the news. We're going to receive some untimely news or to find something disheartening. But at the same time, that's kind of how you know you're on the right track. It can never be too easy. So in the face of adversity, you have to really learn how to take those challenges to mind and not to heart, to not get in your feelings about it, and learn how to navigate past that. As far as getting involved, Savannah hit the nail on the head with, and sorry for my voice, y'all, I had just woke up before we got on this call, but honestly, reaching out to organizations and going to them, following through as well. Emails are great, but if you Google the organization, oftentimes their phone number is on there. Call, make yourself personable, have an elevator speech ready. Go to events and festivals, build your network, get your name out there, make sure people know you, remember you even. Go ahead and have some business cards and a resume on hand if need be. So it really starts with how you carry yourself and what kind of energy you project. Because if you know you're the real deal and you treat yourself as such, people are going to notice that, and people are going to remember you, because it's like, wow, this kid came up to me and, they had cards on hand. They knew who I was. They called me by my name and could list some of my past work. So that, and start a LinkedIn. I know youth don't use Facebook, but get a Facebook. You can find out a lot of things on there. So just make yourself personable and be well-rounded as a whole.
I just wanted to add to the motivation question. When I first started, I had kind of the opposite issue where I just felt like I couldn't do anything. Like, gun control, one thing would happen, and then, I would feel like we were winning, and then like 2 days later there'd be another shooting. And so a lot of it was I was just asking myself, well, what am I doing about it? I'm not making a real difference. But a lot of it was just reframing what I think and saying that even if I just change one person's opinion, that person can then vote on who's going to be the next president, senator, governor, and those people can make changes. So it was focusing on the small victories rather than like the overwhelming issues that weren't being addressed.
So then I have another question for you all. Do you believe activism looks the same for everybody? And if not, what are different ways to get involved? If it's not, I can tell you, I will see Savannah to protest in a heartbeat. If it's something going downtown, I know to expect Savannah. But to the other end, I know Deanna sometimes, she's the person in front of the cameras, especially was about something that's so near to her heart, like her school. So what are ways to get involved other than just protesting? What are ways that we could do it right now today, even just from our homes?
Activism definitely does not look the same for everybody. for starters, it's exhausting. That's overall, regardless of who's doing it. I feel like that is the link between it. So along when you're doing something so exhausting and, you know, still being a student, you have to you have to prioritize your mental health, your academics, your other extracurriculars. And, you know, most of the time you probably have to get permission from your parents. And if parents say no, you ain't going out there. So with that being said, you find what suits you. I'm often in front of the cameras because I'm comfortable doing that. I know how to articulate my point and, you know, like avoid the leading questions and stay to track of get my original message across. I know that when protests are happening, I could probably call the person who's organizing it or get students on the ground as well. So you have to find what best fits you. So while there's protests, yes, I like to say spread awareness. You know, you can post on social media right now, but I also have this thing of if you're going to post it and you really care about it, go beyond the hashtag. If you can sign the petition, sign the petition. If you can donate some money, donate some money. If you can put up flyers around the school, bring the issue to your principal, maybe have a meeting there, get other students on the ground about it. There are other options. I just really think it first starts off with finding what you're comfortable with. And then you have to accurately measure the issue. Is it local? Is it national? What can you truly do about it? How do you want to be heard? And how are you comfortable getting out there?
I definitely agree with Deanna that you have to prioritize your mental health. And every person is different. I tend to be more physical. It makes me feel better when I can see the change happening. I love the energy of protests. And, you know, some people are limited in what they can do. Some people can't donate money. Some people can't go to protests. Early COVID, when there was the protests for George Floyd, I was devastated that I couldn't protest. I couldn't go out because my mom said no. I live with my grandma and my great grandma, and it was hard to balance, you know, the risk of exposing them to COVID. But there were still ways that I tried to help. I reached out to people and asked, you know, what can I do? I had good conversations about the whole issue. I did a lot of research on what's going on. I donated money to organizations that I know have successful change or have a successful policy that can implement like permanent change. And, you know, certain types of activism aren't for everyone. I know that there are plenty of people who would not be able to get in front of a crowd and speak their mind. But those people are also, you know, good at getting people to sign petitions. It really just depends on the type of person you are and the issue that you're trying to address.
Thank you both. And so I actually have a question for Trinity as well. Trinity was her school's beauty queen, right? And so one thing I remember last year was she was in her crown and sass using her platform at different events. And so Trinity, one thing I firmly believe is we all have a platform, even if it's just 45 followers on Instagram. That's our platform. As someone who's used hers, I think, so well, what is your advice for using our platform for good in any way?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. It's not really a beauty pageant, but it's okay. I'll let it slide, Rodney. But yeah, I think the most important thing about having a platform is sharing accurate information first and foremost. Like, you don't want to put out information that's misleading or anything that could leave question for error. I think that's the main part of having a platform, and knowing that the people who are like following you, who are watching you, who are seeing you as like an influencer in a way, that what you're doing is being seen by a lot of people, even if it is only like, you know, those 30 people on your Instagram or those millions of followers who are like under celebrities, under their platform, who have that large platform. Using your platform for good and using it for making lasting change is the most important part of having a platform. You can't just like, you know, share maybe like a couple posts or whatever on your Instagram story and be like, okay, that's like my activism for today, or like just like limit it to like liking a couple posts, or just like, you know, it has to go beyond that. It has to go supporting those communities, whether it be financially or through your services or your intelligence or whatever that may look like for you, and to what capacity you can do that. It's really important that you actually put action behind your words. And there's also like the issue of performative activism, and how sometimes performative activism can be even worse than no activism at all. So I think those are like the main points of how to use your platform for good and using it for lasting change.
Thank you so much. So here's our last question for this conversation. This is not just for our guests tonight, but for everyone on the call. As a generation, what can we do to move forward together? And I see your hand raised if you want to go first.
As a generation, we can sit together by reminding each other that we all are human. It's okay to make mistakes, and also to respect each other's boundaries. Like, you don't always got to be okay with something, but however, just respect it.
Absolutely. Xavier?
I'll say intersectionality, because there's a lot of issues that we face as a lot of people that are mainly focused on one issue. And I feel like sometimes we turn it into a competition when it comes to certain issues. So I feel like we just come together and make it a little easier. You know what I'm saying? The more, the merrier. So yeah, intersectionality is probably the biggest one, I'll think.
Alfred, what you got to share?
I'll say accumulated information and more knowledge, because the more knowledge we have, the more information we have, and we get to see that, okay, I can expand, sorry, I can expand my mind to that certain particular situation and then learn more about it instead of having that you know, one mindset.
All right, so Van and Deanna, if you can finish us off, I think that would be great.
Definitely listening, especially to people who are affected by the issue. You need to make sure that you are listening to people who have firsthand experience, and you definitely need to make sure that their voices are heard. Like, just lift their voices up. If they aren't being heard and they're screaming, you need to use your platform to help them. And you definitely need to make sure that whatever you do is beneficial and not just something for appearances.
Rodney, I think there are more people with their hands raised.
I apologize. Please go ahead.
I think like accepting apologies for when people genuinely like want to like apologize and take responsibility for their actions, since we seem to have a bit of a problem with that as a generation.
Absolutely. And Nevia, I see your hand as well. Please go ahead.
Did you say me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I feel like one thing that's kind of overlooked and not really talked about a lot because people don't like to admit it is that like our generation is really trendy. Like, everyone is always like worried about the hype and like what they can do to be like other people. But I feel like if people were more open-minded and like to just take a second to look at like, dang, what do I want to do? They could really bring more change, because it's like, you know, we're not really moving forward if we're all doing the same stuff, you know? It's just like, I mean, a lot of it is positive. Don't get me wrong. A lot of it is positive, but it's like, nobody really thinks for themselves a lot these days, I don't think.
Facts. Everybody, most of us just let social media just do what we want to do for ourselves. We don't think anymore. We just, as soon as we see a celebrity post something, ooh, that's what I'm thinking now. That's what I want to do.
I think somebody commented in the chat.
Yes, Zaria said, I think some people should not be given the time of day if they know it is wrong and continue to do it, don't pay them attention or to continue stupidity. Yes, that's actually great, Zaria.
And I also want to point out something that Jada said. She said, encourage doing self-research to have a better understanding for your knowledge, not just through word of mouth. And that's something that even I can say I don't do enough of sometimes. So absolutely, and thank you for adding that. With that being said, that concludes our conversation for unity. The one thing I really want to talk about is what do we do after this call? You know, I can tell you I've learned so much about intersectionality, mental health, microaggressions. What do you do all this information after tonight? And one of the best things I've ever heard from a mentor was, any lesson here, put into action the next day. You know, recognize when something isn't right and call it out. One theme I think I definitely saw throughout this entire event was that anyone has the ability to be an activist. It doesn't take starting a national movement. It doesn't take running for office. It doesn't take leading a protest. But activism is really what we do in the face of an issue, in the face of an obstacle. And so there's two things I encourage everyone to do. First thing, start tomorrow. Even if it's just simple as doing research, do it for yourself. And the second thing is bring others along with you. One thing someone said in this generation is that if our generation doesn't do it, we're going to pass along those issues to the next generation. And so it only takes one person, but it's also that person's job to bring in 200 others because we can't do it alone. And so that's one of the biggest things I want to talk about today. And as we close, Ms. Betts, do you have any final words for us as well?
Yes, just thank you all for being in this space together and engaging in such, deep and insightful conversations with one another. I know as an adult ally who cares so much about our young people and just what is coming next for our community and our world, I feel so very hopeful just knowing that you all are out here and out there being who you are and doing what you're doing. And I hope that this may be an opportunity to connect all of your amazingness and create space and opportunity to continue these conversations and connections because no one can make change on their own, and we're all a part of it, and you all are an incredibly important part of it. And so certainly anything that we can do, we want to do that. So you all just let us know, and if it's doing convenings like this, we will hold them. If it's creating other spaces and opportunities for you all to find your ways as the change makers that you are in our community to continue to elevate youth voice, then we're here for it. So you all just let us know. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. Now, one last thing before everyone goes. We promised raffle prizes. And so I want to make sure we do those. And so Trinity, please take it over and make sure we thank everyone before they go, and also fill out the survey.
Yes, so we have before I announce the final two winners, I want to make sure that the other four know who they are. So I'll just announce those really quick. In the first round, we had Hunter and Nevaeh, and in the second round, we had Pillar, I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, and Tiana for the second round. And for the third and final round of tonight, we have Jaden Peters for our second to final winner. And we have Mushi as our last winner. Congratulations. And now I will announce the prize. Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
Should I put my email in the chat? Where do I put my email?
The Zaria just put the link to the survey. It's a post survey that everyone needs to fill out in order to receive ours for tonight's event, and also for those to receive their online raffle prize or virtual raffle prize. So the prize that you all will be receiving is a $50 gift card to Walmart or Target. So congratulations to all the winners. Yay. Thank you so much for staying and participating. And please, 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 everyone, if you would be so kind to please fill out the survey. It's just a post survey. Please don't forget to include your email. I've probably said that a million times, but please fill out the survey and please include your email.
Well, this concludes our presentation. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. We want to give a big shout out to all of our sponsors and all of you for participating, because we couldn't have done it without you and the space that you guys have given us. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. Have a wonderful night.
All right, Rodney, do you want to give it a? All right, Rodney, do you want to give the closing statements? What the freak was that?
Can't thank you enough. This happened because of you all, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize everyone on this call who put together these presentations. They took time out their big schedules to do this for the last couple of months. So I want to say thank you to the entire team I worked with. You all are phenomenal. I feel a little more engaged and a little more inspired because of this, and not just today, but throughout this entire process. So thank you so much for that as well. And with that being said, that concludes today's event.
So we will go ahead and stop the live stream, and I'll just let this space stay open, and folks can leave as you want to leave, or continue to contribute in the chat, or just be in the space together. And we'll close it when I'm the last one standing. So thank you all. You're just so incredible, and I just have so much gratitude for who each of you are. Thank you.
Have a great one, everybody.
You too, my man.
Yes, sir. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your nights, and
Everybody, enjoy your nights. Have a
Enjoy the
great
rest of your
night.
evening.
Have a great
You
sleep.
too. You too, man.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
trying to be like me.
For those of you who are still on, if you still want to discuss something, feel free to share.
I see everybody still on, so I want to share. So,
I see Thailand, if you